All right, what kind of guns, what kind of ammo should we have in our possession when the shit hits the fan? That's a question that I get on a regular basis, and I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to ask a whole bunch of questions all within one question right here. There's a question of what should I carry with me, or what should I have, at my disposal on a regular basis for self-defense reasons, but then also in the gloom and doom kind of scenarios, what should I have in my possession to protect myself, protect my family, protect my property? What I want to do is first kind of simplify things by saying that there's three main kind of categories of weapons. We talk about firearms. There is your handguns, your shotguns, and your rifles. Each one of these have their pluses and minuses depending on what your goal is. If we're talking about regular self-defense, as opposed to, let's say, we have to defend a compound, those are two different kinds of questions that I would have to answer. But in order to really answer for this video, I want to break things down into two main answers. The first thing is, what is your expertise, and then also what is your environment? What is your expertise means, what gun do you feel comfortable with? I don't care if you think an AR type gun is cool, do you know how to use it? I don't care if you think of, you'd say, listen, everyone in my family says I should own a shotgun. Do you know the difference between, let's say, using a slug or using a buckshot kind of type of ammunition? So when we go ahead and we take a look at the expertise factor, we want to make sure we answer the question, what do you feel comfortable with? And if it is a handgun, what kind of caliber do you feel comfortable with? Do you feel comfortable with a smaller caliber, like let's say a 9mm, or a larger caliber, let's say a .45 caliber? So we need to make sure that we are paying attention to what we feel comfortable with. That's kind of the first thing that we need to pay attention to when we're talking about expertise. The next thing is that what are you getting regular training in? I see so many people carrying around guns, and I just will break into a casual conversation. I was like, when's the last time you went shooting? And they'll say something like 18 months ago. I'll pull my hair out thinking, you need to be training on a regular basis with whatever weapon we tend to use or want to use in a self-defense situation. So as I go back to these categories, if you are using a shotgun for your home self-defense, how often are you going out and using or training with that shotgun in order to defend yourself? So the first thing is expertise, like I said. The second thing is environment. What I mean by environment is where are we using this weapon for defense? And I'm going to bring everything back to the home because I think that's where a lot of questions really start from, is that what kind of home do you live in? Do you live in an apartment building? Do you live in a regular single family? Do you live in a townhome where there's might be, let's say, multiple units all within one structure? Or do you live, let's say, on a 20-acre farm? That is going to help us determine what might be the best use or the best category to use within your purposes of self-defense. And I'm just going to go out and say it right now, where if we break into, let's say, the pluses and minuses of a rifle, I would say do not use a rifle for regular self-defense if you live in an apartment complex, or even if you live in a home where the development has a lot of homes that are stacked close to each other. Why? Because rounds are going to be used mainly in a rifle, let's say a .223 round. Those are going to go through walls and possibly into someone else's home, and that is something that we do not want. But on the other hand, if we're, let's say, defending a bigger property, a bigger home even, let's say, when you're comparing a 1,500 square foot home compared to, let's say, a 6,000 square foot home, well, if you have a bigger home, well, then maybe a longer gun like this might be more relevant for you. Now we move to a shotgun. The shotgun is a great tool because we can really vary up the kind of ammo that we have in there. We can use buckshot or we can use slugs. And if you're curious on what different types of ammo render different kinds of consequences, please check out the video that we already made. And the video is called Do Not Use Full Metal Jackets for Self-Defense. It's a great video that's very simplistically but also completely answers the question, what do different rounds do up against perpetrators or up against the bad guys? What do they do up against our targets? Make sure you please check out that video. But when you're talking about a shotgun right here, understand that we have buckshot and also slugs as your two main types of choices right there. Your buckshot is something that's going to have a little bit of a wider spread. This is great, especially if we possibly have other people in the house who maybe don't receive the exact same amount of training, but they could have to use this gun to defend ourselves. Guess what? a 9-shot might be great. A slug, well, that's a heavy-hitting kind of type of ammunition. And if we're going to use that, then once again, we need to know what's around us, what are behind the walls that we might be shooting at and through as well. Last but not least, I'll use the handgun right here as the last category that I want to go on over. When we talk about the handgun, just realize that different calibers are going to be comfortable for different types of people. And so if you have somebody, let's say, who has a smaller frame, a lighter frame, well, a smaller, lighter caliber might do justice as far as that stuff goes. But you want to find something that you're comfortable in, but also fits the environment that you're in. The last thing I'll say about environment is paying attention to what size environment they're in. I already talked about, possibly the drawbacks of using a AR gun for an apartment kind of defense. If you only have, let's say, a smaller environment of, let's say, 900 square feet, well, maybe using an AR type rifle may not be the best choice. If you want something longer like that, maybe a shotgun with some buckshot might be your best answer there. But overall, I would say for regular self-defense, for home self-defense, for self-defense when we're out traveling around in our car or out camping, I would go back to the handgun. The handgun is kind of like the catch-all. But once again, find the caliber that you're most comfortable with as far as that goes. I hope that kind of summary helps give you a couple more answers to not only what kind of gun we should have, but also what kind of guns we should have if the shit hits the fan. We want to also make sure that we have a wide variety of weapons that can handle a wide variety of situations.